Alright guys, the time is finally here to talk about the news that will talk about the news that talks about the news. So if you guys haven't already got a hold of this, there is an announcement to the announcement of what our new campaign pack is. We have the very first week of October. I believe it is October 4th. I had to look at it because it's 4/10/18 and I'm not from the United Kingdom, so I don't understand why it's April 10th. But still, October 4th, next week, next Thursday, we're going to be getting some goods. What is this new campaign pack? We have a really kind of, I guess, ominous or at least just kind of nondescript picture to go off of, an X to kind of mark this spot. So what we're going to talk about in this video is what this could possibly be. We have some hints from the way that Creative Assembly likes to typically deliver their hints, right? With little kind of tongue-in-cheek words here and there during their, hey, here's what the teams are working on, or things kind of sprinkled through Twitter, through tweets and through Reddit posts. So we'll kind of follow that cookie trail, that treasure trove real quick before we get into what this possibly could be. If you were looking to hear the news, you have now heard it, and you can close the video if you so wish. But if you want to hear a little bit about what this could possibly be, stay tuned here. So we're going to take a look at our first fact that came about a month ago during the Reddit AMA. God, I feel like I'm on like an episode of Ancient Aliens. But Reddit AMA, Mr. Nork asked a series of questions, but the very first one he asked was, as drug dealers of the strategy gaming world, when are we going to get our next fix, and what flavor will it be? Rich A from the Creative Assembly responded with 2018 Dogbert's favorite, salty, as in that's a reference to the flavor will be salty. Now, okay, that's very, you know, kind of cryptic, enigmatic. Now let's jump on over to the Ogtember 2018 update that we got just last week or so, and we got this little excerpt right here. The team are definitely proving that they'll be worth their salt, and the art department is cooking up something quite unlike anything you've seen in Total War Warhammer game before. There it is, guys. Open and shut case. Halflings are coming to Total War. The Moot Rises Again is the name of the DLC, and we're going to have halflings as far as the eye can see. Part of the DLC will be a Regiment Renowned halflings, where you actually get to customize the color of their foot fur, because halflings are disgusting little creatures. That's a joke. I'm kidding. We don't know what the hell it is yet, but some of the things that this could be, right? So let's look at 5 big contenders for what people, I think, want the most in the DLC. This is an outlier as more of a bonus one, but Ogre Kingdoms, this does kind of fall into Ogre Kingdoms because they're always cooking, salting things in the same way of, like, you know, halfling hot pots and shit. But I think Ogre Kingdoms are definitely a Game 3 race. I think it just makes so much sense, so I'm going to eliminate them. Now, the 5 big ones I wanted to talk about are Dogs of War, Tilia, Estalia, Sartosa, everything included within them, Vampire Coast, Araby, Albion, and the Amazons. So we've got these 5 potential races here, right? And let's look at these facts. Let's look at what we've got already. These 3 crucial facts. 2 references to salt, referencing some sort of you know, sea salt or something, of course, of the naval variety. And then we've got, you know, our X marks the spot. So something of like the treasure hunting pirate sort of variety. Now, that eliminates Amazon right off the bat. And even in and of itself, if we're talking strictly about rosters, Amazon's not there. I mean, they have a really scant War Master roster, and that's really it, guys. They have very little messages or remembrance in the lore. Even the End Times doesn't nod to them. The End Times nods to stuff like Drakenfels, which is like a 1989, 1990 version of the lore that is so like far flung from the today's lore that they're like, oh, we'll bring them back in as a Mortarch. Like, so this is to give you an idea that the Amazonians are really just far from the mind of Warhammer as a whole. Now, Albion, on the other hand, they did have their Shadows over Albion campaign, and after that campaign, their units were actually rolled up into the Dogs of War roster, the Truthsayers and the Dark Emissaries, which are corrupted Truthsayers. If you haven't seen the video on the Albion kind of lore that we did, I'll link it after this, so you at least can get some dive deep on what that roster kind of looks like. Now, I think that that kind of eliminates Albion as well. We don't hear of Albion as this seafaring or anything kind of mentioning to pirate treasures or anything like that. So I think that, again, eliminates Albion. There is a talk about how the Truthsayers had to go across the world and find anyone who was willing to champion their cause to help put an end to Be'lakor. That's more of like a sojourning thing and like a Lord of the Rings type style, like travel across all 9 lands versus, you know, on the open ocean. Now, let's focus on the 3 big ones I think it could possibly be. Araby. You've got many tales of Arabian pirates. You've got tales of Araby moving into Tilia and Astalia via the whole entire like Great Arabian War. You've got Tilia and Astalia and Sartosa, which is actually a fractured or anachronistic portion of Whoops, that's not the word. Portion of Tilia that basically is like this own sovereign portion of Tilia. It's still considered incorporated within it, but it is a nation run entirely by pirates. And they are entirely mercenaries, much like most of Tilia and Astalia is. But Tilia, Astalia, and Sartosa have the most fleshed out list and most current list of all the things we've mentioned here today. They have got many, many, many lords. They've got a whole slew of troop choices, of cavalry, as you guys will want to correct me. Many monsters to choose from all different races too. You know, like we've talked about some of those units too, and we'll link that in the end of this as well, so you can dive down to some of the 4th edition Dogs of War units and everything like that. But they have a whole entire culture kind of built out under them, and they have a really compelling, really amazing lore. If I were to put my bet on anything, I would say it would be Tilia, Astalia, you know, Sartosa, whatever you want to call them. The Southern Realms is a big nickname for them. But I think that they kind of fit the bill the most because they have so much to offer, and they're already kind of in the game, right? We already have Pirates of Sartosa in the game. We already have like the New World colonies sprinkled about most of Illustria, and when we look at the Mortal Empires map, it's right there. It's just begging to have a playable faction placed into it. So that's probably the front runner as far as capability of a DLC race. Now, a lot of people have talked about the size of the capitals. Like, oh, Magritta and Astalia, they've got the size of a starting capital. Well, no, they don't. They've got a 8 level, or 8 slot capital building in Magritta for Astalia. That is no different than pretty much any other faction. The only time that you have a larger starting location is when you have less provinces in your starting province. So if you look at Skavenblight, for example, they've got 10. If you look at the Wood Elf Athaloran, for example, they've got 12 because they don't have any other provinces attached to that one. Skavenblight is its own sole province. Now, there's another portion of this list that is, of course, very, very, very vampire focused. I'm sorry, not vampire, pirate focused, and that is Vampire Coast. We've talked about Araby. We talked about their potential for them being Arabian pirates, and I think that's a little bit more of a stretch, but they do have a very fleshed out lore and list. We talked about the Southern Realms and how they probably have the most fleshed out lore and list. Now let's talk about Vampire Coast. Now the Vampire Coast has a huge starting province. The province of the Vampire Coast, they would, I guess, hypothetically start out with the Awakening, because that's where they start in the game. And that is, again, an 8-slot capital building. So nothing is really giving that away to us currently in the game. There was a big rumor mill at the one point where they were saying, like, oh, Magritta's got a 10-slot capital. Like, no, it doesn't. It's got 8. So Vampire Coast has got the Awakening, the Blood Swamps, Pox Marsh, the Star Tower, and we know it already to be in the game, but nothing necessarily overly unique about the faction as it is. Its roster does exist, but the roster in and of itself is a very... I don't want to say watered down, but it's almost like a duplicate of the Vampire Counts. So we did that video on the Vampire Coast and what that roster kind of looks like. Again, I will link that at the end so you can see all this shit, guys. But Vampire Coast is... The epitome of the Vampire Coast is pirates. Salt. X marks the spot. I would kind of think that Pirates of Sartosa is a little bit more like that, because the Vampire Coast is more like, hey, we're not sojourning across the 7 seas for gold and treasure. We're sojourning to kill and grow our not our nation, but our navy, or to look for magic artifacts to help kind of assist with Luther Harkin's just insane brain. So I think the Vampire Coast has a really cool roster. I mean, it is October. I mean, spooky, scary. That kind of plays its part there. But I think that a lot of people want to see Southern Realms the most. So My two front runners right now, I'd say, between all five, would be Southern Realms and Vampire Coast. Vampire Coast because they're outright pirates. There's nothing else about them. And Southern Realms because half, or I guess a third of what they represent are just strictly pirates. So there's a lot to go on here. I know this is really just a video purely based off of speculation, but I wanted to have some fun with you here, guys, because we haven't had anything in the past like 2-3 months. So just trying to get that hype train choo-choo in a little bit. We have all of next week to kind of wonder what this is until we get that drop on Thursday. Don't worry, I'll be covering that as well, as I always do here. But I'm so excited to see what the hell this is going to be. I mean, whew, it's been a long time, and I am stoked to get into another campaign with y'all. We'll be doing quite a bit of coverage of that whenever it does come out. But guys, so excited to hear today. Go ahead and leave any comments about what you think this might be. You know, if you think I'm totally crazy and you actually want it to be halflings, go ahead, make the comment. I will happily oblige and comment back. Or just let me know some of your ideas of how you think that how these rumors can be pertaining to a certain campaign pack that you would like to see. So, as always, guys, thanks for watching here today. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. But have a good one, and take care.